Hi there. Here's my submission to Azure Dev Hackathon for the category Java Jackpot. Surfing the internet, we come across resources that we might need for later use or maybe store them for our current project we are working on. This is where project Urlink comes in. It is a Spring Boot microservice which helps user create multiple collections which can store multiple URLs with descriptions for later access. The project is created using Spring Boot, a framework for creating backend microservices using Java with MySQL as a database. The code is divided into 5 modules, 3 microservices, 1 cloud gateway, and 1 shared module containing models and details. You can send HTTP requests to individual microservices, but to make our infrastructure more resilient, we implemented cloud gateway and circuit breaker for all our requests to traverse through it, and in case of failure, handle the fallback and inform the user about the same. Here we have 3 microservices implementing service-oriented architecture. Controller receives the request and passes on to the service layer where the business logic happens. It talks to the database using Spring Data JPA with MySQL as a database, and if needed, it can request resources from another microservice. All microservices discover each other using Eureka service registry, and internally, requests are load balanced, going from one microservice to another. All microservices implement according to Open API specification and documented using Swagger. The project is deployed to Azure Spring Cloud and connected to Azure MySQL single server. Configurations are loaded into the system using Cloud Config using Git and Azure Service Binding. Service registry and Cloud Config server are integrated and fully managed by Azure Spring Cloud. Modules are packaged in .jar files and deployed to Azure Spring Cloud from Azure DevOps pipeline. For distributed tracing and logging, we added Zipkin and Sleuth libraries, which integrate with App Insights dashboard for Azure. Moving on to the practical part, here we have our code with all our microservices, our shared repository, and our configuration for Azure deployment. Over here in Azure DevOps, we have our application.yaml file containing the configurations, and we deploy them using Azure pipelines. As you can see, we have multiple deployments to our Azure Spring Cloud, with each deployment first cloning the GitHub repository, performing Maven build, and then individually getting deployed to Azure Spring Cloud to their respective app. Here are all the resources we used for the hackathon: Azure Spring Cloud, App Insights, Log Analytics Workspace, Azure Database for MySQL Server. Here's our dashboard for Azure Spring Cloud. As you can see, we have our 4 microservices, the Cloud Gateway, and 3 others. They are automatically connected to Eureka Discovery Client, which is fully managed by Azure Spring Cloud. Here is the Cloud Config Server configuration we fetch from the application.yaml file hosted on Azure DevOps. Here's one of our microservices which binds to the MySQL database using service binding that is provided by Azure. Here are the Swagger APIs for our microservices which implement the CRUD operations. Here is the Swagger API for the collection microservices, and one of the URLs, when you request the collections for the user, it sends a request to the user microservices to get the information and then shows you the result. Here is our application app insights map showing all the successful and errors in our requests sent from the front end. Here is our app insights dashboard where we can filter through our trace ID and search for the any warnings or log levels. This is possible as we implemented Zipkin and Sleuth client. And here's our database. Thank you for your time.